Hey, what's up everybody? It's great to see everybody here at Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Kuf Vav of Masechta Shabbos, Daf 106. It's a interesting Daf, this Daf. You know what? There's actually a kind of a lot here. Doesn't seem like there would be that much, but there kind of is. So, anyways, first we're talking about wounding and burning on Shabbos, and then that's really the first Amud, which there's some interesting kind of complexity there. Not really too complex, because we're going to ignore most of it, because the really complex part I don't really understand, so we'll just pretend like it doesn't exist. And then, I hope that's okay. Anyways, and then we get into trapping like chayos and birds and stuff on Shabbos and on Yom Tov. So like wounding, wounding, burning, trapping. That's like the main things today, okay? Let's go. So we're going to start on Daf Kufay Amud Beis, all the way at the bottom. Bottom line. Okay, it says the Gemara, all the way at the bottom of Kufay Amud Beis. Ve'amr B'chia bar Abba, Amr B'yechanan. It says B'chia bar Abba in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Echad mina achin shemeis yid'agu kol ha'achin kulan. If one of the brothers dies, so then all of the brothers should be nervous. Rashi says, first Rashi on the page, Yid'agu yiru min amisa. They should be scared that they're going to die as well. If one of the fellows in the group, like the group of people in the what do we call it, in the club, dies, then the whole club should be nervous. Now this, of course, the chabura over here was talking about chabura of people that they would study Torah together. So if one person dies, then the entire chabura should be nervous. Amrila demeis gadol, v'amrila demeis kain. For those who explain it, when the greatest of the chabura dies, right? Because if the greatest person, as Rashi says, demeis gadol yesh lidog hol v'shalto midas adin b'rosh habayis, right? Since the midas adin, the judgment, is overcoming the greatest in the house, so then everybody should be nervous. Some say it comes from the kain, as Rashi says. Quotes a Gemara in Brachis, Daf Samach Aleph, where it says there in Shebeklala Maschilim min HaKain, that when it comes to curse, we start from the Kain. So therefore, if the Kain in the Chabura dies, so then everyone should be nervous about what's coming next. Let's go weiter, friends. So our Mishnah had said that anybody who's mekalkal, anybody who does a destructive act on Shabbos, is going to be pater. Now, listen to this. Says the Gemara, Tani Rabbi Abou Kamid Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Abou taught in front of Rabbi Yochanan. What did he teach? Kol ha'mekalklim p'turin. Okay, so anybody who does something destructive on Shabbos is pater, fine. Chutz michovel u'mavir. Interesting. The exceptions being chovel, making a wound, if you make somebody bleed, and mavir, burning stuff. For that, you're going to be chayav. Okay, so our Mishnah had said chol mekalklim p'turin, that anybody who does something destructive is pater on Shabbos. Yet Rabbi Abou seems to be quoting a Mishnah that says, yeah, sure, a brisa that says, sure, anything that you do on Shabbos that's destructive is pater, but wounding and burning, you're going to be chayav. So now, Amarle, so Rabbi Yochanan responds to Rabbi Abou, pok tni levara. Go and teach your funny little brisa outside of the Beis HaMedrash. I don't want to hear that brisa in here. Right? Rabbi Yochanan says, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Kol mekalklim p'turim, and that's that. Anybody who's mekalkal on Shabbos, who does something destructive on Shabbos, including wounding, including burning, is going to be pater. Don't come in here and say that there are exceptions, and that's wounding and burning, you're going to be chayiv. Forget it. Any mekalkal is pater. Chovel u'mavir eina mishnah. Right, this business that you're saying about chovel and mavir being chayev, it's nothing. As they say, right, fake news is kind of what we say in 2020. V'im tamulomar mishnah, and if you want to say that it is real, and if you want to say that chovel and mavir is chayev, this is the only way that you can explain it, which is chovel b'tzarech l'chabo, mavir b'tzarech le'efra. The only way you could say that chovel and mavir would be chayev is if you say that when you wound somebody, I don't really understand this, but when you wound somebody and you need the blood for your dog, for whatever reason. I don't know why your dog would need somebody's blood, but if you wound somebody because you need the blood for your dog, or if you burn something because you need the ash, in those cases you would be chayiv because it's misakin, it's not mikalkel, right? It's for a constructive purpose. You need it for your dog. You need it for because you need the ash for whatever reason. So then you'd be chayiv. But just to come in here and say that chovel and mavir are chayiv, forget it. Not true. Okay, fine. So that was that sort of interaction between Rabbi Abba and Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Abba wanted to argue that while the Mishnah says kol mekalkelim peturin, there's an exception, and that would be chovel and mavir. Rabbi Yochanan says, forget it. There's no exceptions to that rule. The only way maybe I could think that chovel and mavir would be chayiv would be if it was chovel because you need the blood for your dog and mavir because you want to make the ash. But in that case, obviously you're going to be chayiv because it's misakin. You're doing it for a constructive purpose. Fine. Now the Gemara goes back to Rabbi Abba's brisa that he quoted that says that chovel and mavir you're chayiv. So ve'ah anantanan kol mekalkelim peturin. But one second, I don't understand. How could Rabbi Abba come here and say that while when it comes to mikalkel, kol mekalkelim peturin, but for some reason chovel and mavir would be chayiv? But what about our Mishnah over here that says kol mekalkelim peturin, that any destructive act you're going to be pater, and obviously that includes wounding and burning. That's destructive. So the Gemara answers Masnisin Rabbi Yehuda Brisa Rabbi Shimon. Interesting. So the Gemara answers, okay, so let's just say that it's a machlokas. Our Mishnah over here, on Daf Kufay Amud Beis in Masechta Shabbos, that says that kol mekalkelim peturin, that's Rabbi Yehuda. And this brisa that Rabbi Abba is quoting, and where it says that kol mekalkelim peturin except for chovel and mavir, which you're chayiv for, that's Rabbi Shimon. Okay, so now, here's the thing. This is sort of the confusing part that I'm going to avoid. So, why? The question is, what makes this Mishnah Rabbi Yehuda and this Brisa Rabbi Shimon? Why are we saying that the Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda and the Brisa is Rabbi Shimon? So, first Rashi starts off by saying, apparently there's some machlokas, where, between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, where Rabbi Yehuda would say that mekalkel b'chabura, would be pater. The thing is, Rashi says that he doesn't know where that machlokas is, and therefore he doesn't feel comfortable just simply saying that it's a machlokas of Yehuda and Reb Shimon when we don't have a basis for where this machlokas is. So Rashi kind of explains how somehow it has to do with melacha she'eina tzricha legufa. I don't understand it. I don't know. He wants to say that if you make a wound, but it's really for your dog, or if you burn something, but it's really because you need the afer, it's a melacha she'eina tzricha legufa. At least that's the way I understand that he wants to argue. I don't understand why that would be melacha she'eina tzricha legufa. If you're burning something because you need the ash, that's melacha she'tzricha legufa. If you're wounding somebody because you need the blood for your dog, again, that's melacha she'tzricha legufa. Your dog is your responsibility. You need that for your dog for whatever reason. So I don't understand why it would be melacha she'eina tzricha legufa. It's also complicated to explain it that way. I don't get it. So I'm just going to take the simpler route, which is just to take for granted that okay, it's machlokas Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Shimon, that everyone, either way that's certainly the case, that the Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda, the brisa that Rabbi Abba is quoting is Reb Shimon. Why is the Mishnah Rabbi Yehuda? Why is the brisa Reb Shimon? That already gets complicated. Rashi is explaining how somehow it connects to the machlokas about between Reb Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda about melacha she'eina tzricha legufa. I don't understand why that would be, but what we can all agree on is that the Mishnah, what the Gemara is saying, is that the Mishnah on Kufay Umud Beis, where we say kol mekalkelim peturin, is Rabbi Yehuda, and the brisa that Rabbi Abba is quoting, where it says, sure, kol mekalkelim peturin, but there are two exceptions, chovel and mavir, that's Rabbi Shimon. The question is, why? Why does Rabbi Yehuda say that chovel and mavir are pater, whereas Rabbi Shimon says chovel and mavir are chayiv? Friends, you got that? Good. My time with Rabbi Shimon, so the Gemara wants to know, how come then Reb Shimon says that chovel and mavir are chayiv? Isn't it mekalkel? So the answer is mideitzrich kra lemishra mila hachovel ba'am chayiv. So Reb Shimon argues, well, when it comes to bris milah is docha Shabbos. Bris milah is docha Shabbos. Now we needed a special limud. It says uvayom hashmini yimol b'sar Allah. So that bayom, right? That bayom, that on the 8th day is when you do the bris milah. So on uvayom was extra. So what it teaches that uvayom, even if it's Shabbos, and I think we're going to learn it later, daf kuf lamed beis, I think. So uvayom is extra, and we need a special limud to say that bris milah is docha Shabbos. How come? Because in general, this is what Rabbi Shimon wants to argue, that because the fact that we need to make an exception for bris milah to say that it's docha Shabbos, it's because in general, because bris milah you make a wound, you make a chavala, and in general chovel would be chayav on Shabbos. Therefore, we need a limud to teach that bris milah davka is mutter on Shabbos, and that it's docha Shabbos, and it's not going to be, you're not going to be chayav for making a wound. So therefore, Rabbi Shimon argues that chovel is going to be chayav on Shabbos. Fine. And from the fact that, so what's a baskoin? So there's a sugya of baskoin shezinsa, right? The Torah says that if you have a baskoin, the daughter of a kohen, who is mizaneh, what exactly does that mean? So I think the Ma'aseh Machlokas in Masechta Sanhedrin about if it's talking about this baskoin who's an Ara Maurasa. I think it also depends on the Machlokas between Reb Shimon and the Chachamim about, or was it Reb Shimon ben Gamliel? No, I think it was Reb Shimon and the Chachamim about what's the most stringent death penalty, whatever it is. But you have a baskoin shezinsa, whether we're talking about Nara Maurasa, whether you're talking about maybe a married woman. But if she's the daughter of a kohen and she is mizana, so then she gets sreifa, burning. And the way that we do sreifa is that we heat up hot lead, pour it down this individual's throat, and it burns out their insides. Yes, that is sreifa. It's not burning at the stake, it's burning with hot lead down the throat. So the question is, so what Reb Shimon wants to argue is that from the fact that we see that you would not be allowed to burn a baskoin shezinsa on Shabbos, it's because havara, burning, is asur on Shabbos, right? Fine. So umida asur achmana havara gabi baskoin shmamina mavir ba'alma chayv. So from the fact that we see that havara by baskoin is asur, so we see that havara in general is going to be chayv on Shabbos. Fine. Now, Rabbi Yehuda, how come Rabbi Yehuda argues that chovel and mavir on Shabbos would be pater? If that's the case, then why do I need an exception? Why do I need a special limud by bris milah to teach me that it's docha Shabbos? Obviously, what's the problem with bris milah? Chovel is pater, right? So Rabbi Yehuda, hasam misakenu. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, the reason why I need a special limud by bris milah is because bris milah is actually misakin. It's actually fixing this person, right? This person with their foreskin is not complete, and by removing it, you're making the person better, making them complete, and therefore it would be mitaken, and therefore it would have the havamina that if it's mitaken, if it's misakin, well, it's not mikalkel, and therefore I should be chayav. That's why I need a special limud to say that bris milah is docha Shabbos, even though it's misakin, it's not mikalkel. Okay. K'der Rav Ashi, Tamar Rav Ashi, malu l'sakin milah, malu l'sakin kli. It's like Rav Ashi says, what's the difference if I'm doing a tikkun to a person by doing bris milah, or if I am doing some kind of fixing some kind of a kli, some kind of a vessel, which wouldn't be allowed on Shabbos. So therefore I also shouldn't be allowed to do bris milah on Shabbos. Therefore I need a special limud to teach me that I can do bris milah on Shabbos. But that's only because it's misakin. In terms of chavala, in terms of chovel's pater on Shabbos. And then he continues, mali levashel psila, mali levashel samanin. And then, if you're going to say, then how come burning a baskoin shezinsa, doing sreifa on Shabbos, would be asur? What's the problem? It's sreifa, it's burning. What's the problem with burning? Well, the problem with burning is that you have to cook the hot lead that you're going to pour down her throat. And cooking on Shabbos is asur. That's why it's not allowed. But in terms of havara, it would be pater. Fine. That's the machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon regarding havara and chovel, and how that fits into being pater from a kalka. Fine. Shira Malah chule. So we said in the Mishnah yesterday. So I made a mistake yesterday in the Mishnah. I said that a seat is the difference between your thumb and your index finger. That's not correct. I made a mistake. A seat is the difference between your index finger and your middle finger. Okay? And therefore, we said that when it comes to the shear for, Milaben, for bleaching, so that would be on a thread that is large enough for the distance between your index finger and your middle finger times 2. So that is what the Gemara is talking about now. So Rav Yosef machve kaful, Rav Chia bar Ami machve pashit. So Rav Yosef, when he would show the size of a seat kaful, so he would take the distance between his index finger and his middle finger, and he would show it twice. So he would show that it's a distance between your index finger and your middle finger twice. Whereas Rav Chia bar Ami had a neat little trick where he just said, well, lemaisa, the difference between your thumb and your index finger is the same distance as the distance between your pointer finger, your index finger, and your middle finger times 2. So he would just basically show the distance between his thumb and his index finger, because that's the same thing, lemaisa, as the distance between your index finger and your middle finger times 2. Friends, new Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Omer says, the very, very holy Rabbi Yehuda, Tzad Tzipor Lemigdal Utzvila Abayis Chayav. If you trap on Shabbos a bird into some kind of a closet, i.e., you trap a bird, you lure a bird, you trap the bird in some kind of, little spot that you can close the door and now it can't get out. Utzvi Laboyis, or you trap a deer into a house, right? And then you lock the door and the deer can't get out anymore. So that would be considered trapping. That would be the malacha of tzad. However, if you were to lure a bird into a house, that would not be considered tzad, because it can always fly out a window, or as we're going to see later, it can also just kind of fly around and jump around from corners to corners potentially, and make it very difficult for you to actually catch ultimately. And therefore, if you still have to exert too much effort to actually, catch the thing, so it's not considered trapped, right? So, we're going to see that, in a little bit. Meaning it's only considered trapping if it's actually trapped, if it's like game over. But let's say you trap a deer into some huge area with a fence around it, that's not considered trapped if it's still going to be a humongous amount of effort to actually catch the thing. So the point is that once you have a bird in some kind of like closet kind of thing, so with like a door that you shut in its small area, well, it's trapped. However, in a house where it can fly out a window or maybe jump around from corner to corner and make your life miserable, it's not considered trapped. A deer, once it gets in the house, it's already considered trapped. Okay, so the Chacham agree with Rabbi Yehuda that in order to catch a bird, you would have to get it into some kind of like a closet, kind of confined space. However, when it comes to a deer, utzvi, labayis lagina v'lachatzav v'labivrin. In addition to the house, it would also be considered trapped once you get it into a garden area, into a courtyard, or into some kind of enclosure. They would consider that to be trapped already as well. Okay, fine. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel Omer says, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, lo kol habivrin shavin. So Reb Shimon ben Gamliel points out that not every enclosure is the same. Ze aklal, this is the rule. Mechusut tzeda. Pater she'enu mechusut tzeda chayv. So if it is lacking getting trapped, so then it would be pater. If it's not lacking getting trapped, i.e. that's a double negative, i.e. if it's completely trapped already, then you'll be chayv. So this is important. This is important, friends. So the idea is like this, and it's kind of as I said a minute ago, that if on Shabbos you lure an animal into some kind of enclosure, that at that point it's done, game over, this thing is trapped, right? If you're going to want to shecht it, if you're going to want to slaughter it, there's not much more you have to do. You just grab it and slaughter it. Well, you're going to be chayav for trapping that animal on Yom Tov once you get it into that very tight space. However, if you lure an animal into some space that even once it's in this space, you're still going to have to exert effort in order to it's not exactly trapped yet. You're still going to have to, somehow trap it, chase after it or something in order to really get it down. So then it's not considered trapping. And then, so there are nafkaminas, as we're going to see now in the Gemara, there are nafkaminas now, legabe yamtiv. Can you shech this animal on yamtiv? Right? So it's like a double-edged kind of thing. Meaning, on the one hand, if you have like a larger enclosure, so if you lure it into there, so you won't be chayav for trapping, but then again, now if it becomes yamtif and you want to shech the animal, well, you can't shech it because you haven't trapped it yet. And in order to shech it, you're going to have to first grab it and trap it, and so you won't be able to eat it on yamtif. So now, but at the same time, if you get it into an enclosure and it's considered trapping if you do it on Yom Tiv, but at the same time, that also makes it, you'd be allowed to, shecht it on Yom Tiv at this point because it's already considered trap. You don't have to trap it anymore, you just have to shecht it, so it's going to be mutter to shecht it on Yom Tiv. So, yeah, basically, if it's considered trapping on Shabbos, right? So then, if it would be considered trapped on Shabbos, well then it would be permitted to shecht it on Yom Tov because you don't have to trap it anymore. If on Shabbos you would be potter for trapping, well that's because it's not considered having trapped it, which means that you wouldn't be allowed to shecht it on Yom Tov because you would now still have to trap it in order to shecht it. Okay, so says the Gemara, Tanan Hasam. We have a Mishnah over there in Masechta Beitza. Okay? Ein tzadin dagim min abivin b'Yom Tov. So I had a teacher once from Reshit, Rabbi Eli Marcus, and he recalled an experience that he had at Camp Morish HaKolel, Isaac Lebwal, Camp Morish HaKolel. I'm not going to say who he was learning with. He was learning with one of the Rebbeim over there, and he said it was very funny how he would translate Hebrew into Hebrew. And he specifically mentioned this Mishnah in Beitza. He said how this rabbi would say, "Ein tzadin dagim min abivin on Yom Tiv." You're not tzadin dagim min abivin on Yom Tiv. So I won't do that. I'll translate it into English. But maybe just for old time, maybe just for the fun of it, I'll translate it like that first. So we learned there in Masechta Beitza that we're not tzadin dagim min abivin on Yom Tiv. Great. Now that I got that joke out of the way, so what does it actually mean? It means that we do not trap fish from the enclosures on Yom Tiv. Okay, because the fish are considered hefker, they're not considered trapped, and therefore you would not be allowed to trap them on Yom Tiv. Ve'ei nosin lefnei mizonis, and you can't feed them because again they're considered hefker. Aval tzadin chayav of min abivin, but you would be allowed to trap a chaya. Now a deer is a chaya; it's an undomesticated animal, it's a wild animal. Ve'of, and a bird, you would be allowed to trap the chayos and the ofos from the bivrin v'nosin lefnei mizonis, and you would be allowed to give them food because they're already considered trapped. Okay, fine. We have a kasha. Bivrin shel chayos v'shel ofos v'shel dagim. But we have a brisa, or really a tosefta from Beitza. Toseftas are also kinds of brisas. So we have a brisa that's brisa fine sitter. So we have a brisa from Beitza that says that enclosures of chayos and of ofos and of fish ein tzadimim b'Yom Tiv. You're not allowed to trap from them on Yom Tiv. And you can't put food in front of them. No. So we have a Mishnah in Beitza that says that you would be allowed to trap chayos and ofos on Yom Tiv. But then we have a Brisa in Beitza that says that you would not be allowed to trap chayos and ofos on Yom Tiv. So what's pshat? So kasha chaya chaya, kasha ofos ha-ofos. So you have a kasha from the fact that we say that in one place in the Mishnah, chaya is mutter to trap on Yom Tiv. The other place in the Brisa it says that chaya is also to trap on Yom Tiv. And in the Mishnah it said that birds are mutter to trap on Yom Tiv. And in the Brisa it said birds are also to trap on Yom Tiv. So what is pshat? Bishlam achaya achaya lo kasha. So the Gemara says, well, okay. We don't have an issue with the chayas. How come we don't have the issue with the chayas? Harav Yehuda Rabbanan. Easy. Remember, in our Mishnah, there was machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and the rabbis regarding bivrin. According to Rabbi Yehuda, if you get a deer into the bivrin on Shabbos, you would be potter. right? Meaning he says only if you trap a deer in your house, you will be chayiv, but in these enclosures, you would be patur, okay? The Chachamim said, Legina v'lechatzav la'bivrin chayiv, that if you were to trap the deer in the bivrin, so then you would be chayiv. So now this is like what I was saying before. So now the flip side, so like Rabbi Yehuda's kula becomes a chumrah and the Chachamim's chumrah becomes a kula. So now, because according to Rabbi Yehuda, he says that if you trap a deer in an enclosure, in bivrin, on Shabbos, you would be pater. Well, then that also means that you wouldn't be allowed to shecht it on Yom Tiv, right? You wouldn't be allowed to trap it on Yom Tiv because it's not yet trapped. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's not yet trapped, right? And that's why you're pater for getting into the bivrin, but it also means that you can't shecht it on Yom Tiv because it's not yet trapped. Now, according to the Chachamim, once you get it into the bivrin on Shabbos, you're chayav for tzad, but it also means that the Mishnah is going to be like them. The Mishnah that says that you're allowed to trap chayos on Yom Tiv is going to be like, so it's no problem because it's already trapped once it's in the bivrin. Okay? So that's how we explain the machlokas between the Mishnah in Beitza and the Brisa in Beitza, right? The Mishnah is saying that chayos are allowed, you're allowed to trap them on Yom Tiv. We're going to say that's the Chachamim, who say that once they're in the bivrin, so they're already considered trapped. And then the Brisa that says that you're not allowed to trap chayos on Yom Tiv, that's going to be when they're in the bivrin. That is going to be Rabbi Yehuda, who says that when chayos are in a bivrin, they're not considered trapping. So while you'd be pater for trapping, for getting them into the bivrin on Shabbos, but it also means that you would not be allowed to trap them on Yom Tif and shech them, since they're not yet trapped. And you would then be trapping it on Yom Tif when you go to shecht it. Okay? Fine. Ela ofis ha-ofis kasha. But the Gemara says, but how are you going to understand ofis ha-ofis, right? Because in the Mishnah, both Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim agreed that the only way to trap a bird is to get the bird into some kind of like small closet area where it can't get out. But in a house or in an enclosure, the bird would not be considered trapped since it can fly out, it can move around. So v'chitema ofis ha-ofis nami lo kasha. And if you're going to say, well, how about this? Ha beaver mikora, ha beaver she'ena mikora. Let's say this, that when the Mishnah says that you would be allowed to trap a bird on Shabbos, on Yom Tif, that would be in an enclosure that has a roof on it. Because it has a roof, it's already considered trapped, and therefore you'd be allowed to trap it on Yom Tif because it's already trapped. And when the Brisa says that you would not be allowed to trap this bird on Yom Tif, that's because it's a beaver, it's a enclosure that doesn't have a roof, and therefore it's not yet considered trapped, and therefore you wouldn't be allowed to now trap it on Yom Tif. V'abayis de mikurahu uvein Rabbi Yehuda uvein Rabbanan tzipor lemigdal in levayis lo, but that wouldn't work because, as I said a minute ago, both Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan agree that a bird in a house would not be considered trapped, and a house has a roof on it. So, if the house has a roof on it and the bird is not considered trapped, right? So therefore, also this enclosure that has a roof on it, bein l'Rabbi Yehuda, bein l'Rabbanan, would not be considered trapped, and it would be considered trapping and a problem if you trap this bird on Yom Tif. So how can the Mishnah say that it would be mutter to trap the bird on Yom Tif? But I don't know, if it's in a beaver, both Rabbi Yehuda and the Chacham would say that you would not be allowed to trap it. Now, if you're thinking, yeah, but the house has windows for the bird to fly out, and this enclosure doesn't have windows, so Rashi points out that it's not just the windows that we're concerned about. If this bird is going to kind of, fly around and be difficult to catch, that would also make it not considered trapped yet. So both according to Rabbi Yehuda and according to the Rabbanan, even if this house or this enclosure has a roof over it, it wouldn't yet be considered trapped. So, Amar Rabba bar Rav Huna, hacha b'tzipor dror askinan, lefi she'ena mekabel es marus. So, Rabba bar Rav Huna answers that our Mishnah, where both Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan agree that a bird inside of a house is not considered trapped, that is talking about a tzipor dror. Tzipor dror was a very elusive bird. It was very difficult to catch. Even once it got in the house, it would bounce around and fly around from one corner to the next and make it very, very difficult to catch. That is why, even once it is in the house, it is not considered caught. However, regular birds, other birds, not tzipor dror birds, so those birds, once they're in an enclosed area with a roof on it, they would be considered caught. And therefore, therefore the Mishnah in Beitza, which says that it's mutter to trap these birds on Yom Tiv, so that would be in an enclosure that has a roof on it. And therefore, they're considered trapped already. And that's that. You don't have to trap them again. And the Brisa, which says that you would not be allowed to trap these birds on Yom Tiv, that is talking about a enclosure that doesn't have a roof on it, and you would now be trapping it on Yom Tiv. Okay, very good. The Tana Devar Rabbi Yishmael, that they learn in the Besmedrash Rabbi Yishmael, Lama Nikra Shema Tzipor Dror. Why is it called a tzipor dror? Mipnei shedara b'bayis kibasada, because it lives in the house just like it lives in the field. It feels just as free flying around from one corner to the other corner in the house like it does in the field, and it'll make it very difficult to catch. And therefore, even in the house, it's not considered already trapped, and you're not allowed to trap it on Yom Tiv, even if there is a roof. But other birds you would be allowed to trap if there's a roof, because they would be considered trapped. Very, very exciting stuff. Friends, let's move on. Hashta da'asas lahachi. Okay, well, now that you've gotten here and you were able to explain the machlokas between birds between the Mishnah in Beitza and the Brisa in Beitza, without having to say that one of them is Rabbi Yehuda and one of them is the Rabbanan, rather you can just say, well, it's different types of enclosures. Well, let's now do the same thing actually about chayos. Why not? Why say that the Mishnah is what did the Mishnah say? That it is mutter, so that would be the Chachamim, and the Brisa is Rabbi Yehuda. Why say the Mishnah is the Chachamim and the Brisa is Rabbi Yehuda? Why not just say that they're both the Chachamim? And just like by the bird, we say, well, we had an ukimta where it's an enclosure with a roof or without a roof. Let's just say the same thing over here, that it's all the Chachamim, and it just depends if it's a good enclosure or not, if it's considered trapped or not. So Ashta Asas La'achi. Achaya nami lo kasha, habibiver gadol, habibiver kain. No problem. That the Mishnah that says that you would be allowed to trap this chaya on Yom Tiv, that's because it's talking about a small enclosure, so it's already considered trapped before then, and you can just kind of take it and check it. Whereas the Brisa that says that you would not be allowed to trap this chaya on Yom Tiv, that's because it's a biver gadol, it's a large enclosure where, you'd still have to exert quite a large amount of effort in order to still trap this animal, and that's why it's not allowed. But it's all according to the Chachamim. Heichi dami biver gadol, Heichi dami beaver kain. What exactly is considered a large beaver? What's considered a small beaver? Amar Rav Ashi, said Rav Ashi, kolecha de royed basvei umatila b'chad shichya beaver kain, v'idach beaver gadol. So Rav Ashi says, well, it depends. If the enclosure is small enough that in one lunge you can grab the animal and slit its throat, so then that would be considered a small enclosure. However, if it takes more than one lunge, so then it would be a large enclosure and it wouldn't be considered trapped. Inami, or else, kolecha denafil tula dichsalam adade, beaver kain vidach beaver gadol. Or if when the sun shines, the shade from one wall is able to touch the opposite wall, well then that would be considered a small beaver. But if it wouldn't reach the opposite wall, then it would be considered a large beaver. And you wouldn't be able to trap it on Yom Tiv because it would be not considered trapped yet. Vinami, or else kolecha deleka ukce beaver kain v'idach beaver gadol. Or else you could say that a small enclosure is one that doesn't have lots of little corners for the animal to run around to and make your life difficult. But if it has many corners that it can run around to, well then it would be considered a beaver gadol, and you would not be allowed to trap that animal on Yom Tov because it's not yet considered trapped. Alright. Wasn't too bad, right? Wasn't too bad. You have to think a little bit, but Thinking never hurt anybody, right? Thinking's good, I think. I like thinking. I like to use my head, That's the kind of stuff I like. I also like other things. I like creativity, but I like creativity as well, but wow, this is already, how did we get here? All right, we should move on. Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer v'chulei. So now Reb Shimon Gamliel in the Mishnah said, so Reb Shimon Gamliel in the Mishnah said that not all bivrin are the same. Okay, there are, right. So let's just quote Reb Shimon Gamliel. Reb Shimon Gamliel said in the Mishnah, right? Lo kol bivrin shavin. Not all enclosures are the same. Zeh klal. This is the rule. Mechusar tzeda pater. Sheinu mechusar tzeda chayiv. If it's still lacking trapping, i.e., it's large enough that you still need to exert effort in order to actually trap the animal, well, then you're going to be pater because it's not considered having trapped it yet in this enclosure. But if you wouldn't need to do much in order to trap this animal, so then you'd be chayiv for luring it into this area on Shabbos because it's considered like you're trapping on Shabbos. So here's the thing. What's the chiddush of Reb Shimon Gamliel? I mean, is there anybody who argues with Reb Shimon Gamliel? I mean, it sounds like everybody would kind of agree, right? So now, so what is the Gemara saying? So Amr of Yosef, Amr of Yehuda, Amr Shmuel. So if Yosef said in the name of his Rebbe, Reb Yehuda, who said in the name of his Rebbe, one of his Rebbeim, Shmuel, halacha Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. So the halacha is like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. So now the Amr le Abaye. So now Abaye says to his Rebbe, who is Reb Yosef, who is of course saying in the name of his Rebbe, Reb Yehuda, who is saying in the name of his Rebbe, Shmuel, right? So Abaye says to Reb Yosef, halacha mechlal de plige, right? This is like a classic Gemara kind of thing, I think. It's like a Gemara kind of thing, which is from the fact that Reb Yosef is saying that the halacha is like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Well, obviously that sounds like there's some kind of machlokas going on over here. Some machlokas between Reb Shimon ben Gamliel and somebody else. And Reb Yosef is coming to clarify that the halacha is like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. But Abaye says, who's arguing on Reb Shimon ben Gamliel? What, would the Chacham disagree? Would the Chacham say that, if you lure an animal into a small enclosure, that you'd be pater, or that if you lure an animal into a large enclosure, you'd be chayiv? No, the Chacham agree with Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, so who's he arguing with? So, Amalei, so Rav Yosef says to Abaye, "My nafkalach mina." Why do you care? Rav Yosef says to Abaye, like, who cares? Alright, so nobody argues with Rav Yosef. So the halacha is like Rav Yosef. What's the big deal? What are you concerned about? I think I just said the halacha is like Rav Yosef, but Rav Yosef is saying that, meaning, Rav Yosef said that the halacha is like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. Abaye says, well, that implies that somebody argues on Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, but nobody argues. Rav Yosef says, okay, but the halacha is still like him. So, Amar Le, Gemara is more today. Abaye says, what do you mean? What, is learning just becoming like singing a song? I mean, that sounds very beautiful, but, Abaye is saying, is Gemara just becoming like singing a song where we just sing for fun, for no reason, doesn't mean anything necessarily? Is that what learning is? That we're just saying things that don't mean anything? The halacha is like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. I mean, obviously the halacha is like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. Nobody argues on him. He's just clarifying, the position of the Chachamim. So, okay, it sounds like Abaye wasn't thrilled with the fact that Rav Yosef was saying something which had implications, that there was a larger machlokas, but the fact of the matter is, there really wasn't a larger machlokas. Rav Yosef was just saying something that really didn't need to be said. Okay. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Hatzad tzvi suma v'yashin chayiv. Somebody who traps a deer that is blind, or a deer that is sleeping, chayiv. Chiger v'zakin v'chole pater. But if he traps a deer that is lame, i.e. it can't move very well, or a deer that is old and also doesn't move very quickly, v'chole, or a deer that is sick and can't move very quickly, pater. In that case, you're pater because it's already like they're trapped, they're already considered trapped. I mean, if they can't really move very well, they're already considered trapped. And even but in the ratio when we said that you're chayiv for a blind deer or a sleeping deer, well, obviously sleeping deer, the second it senses that it's in danger, it's gonna run away. But even a blind deer is gonna also quickly kind of try to jump somewhere, might hurt itself, but it nonetheless is going to try and get away. So it's not considered trapped yet. Amalei Abaye, Rav Yosef. Now Abaye says to Rav Yosef, Mashna hane, Mashna hane. What's the difference between the sleeping and the blind deer that you're chayiv for, and for the sick, the lame, and the old deer that you're pater for? Hani avide l'rabuye, hani lo avide l'rabuye? Is it because the blind deer and the sleeping deer, when they sense they're in danger, they're going to slip away and they're going to run away, whereas the old deer and the sick deer and the lame deer are not going to be able to run away, so they're considered like they're already trapped? But we have a brisa which says that a deer that is sick, you're actually chayiv if you trap this deer. So, and we just said that you're pater if you trap the deer because it can't get away. So Amar Rav Sheishes lo kasha b'chol mechmas ishta b'chol mechmas uvtzina. Says Rav Sheishes, well, it depends. If the deer is sick because it has a fever, but it can still run away, it just has a fever, so then you will be pater for so then you will be chayiv for trapping on Shabbos because you're actually going to have to trap it. But if it's sick because it is like very slow and lethargic, and it's not going to be able to get away, well then it's already considered trapped on its own, and you will be pater. Tanu Rabbanan. Hatzad chagavin gazin tzirin v'yitushin b'Shabbos chayiv divrei Rabbi Meir. Oh, very fancy. Somebody who traps grasshoppers, and chagavin and gazin are different types of grasshoppers. Tzirin v'yitushin, wasps and mosquitoes on Shabbos is chayiv according to Rabbi Meir. V'chacham omim, whereas the chacham say kol shebemino nitzod chayiv v'shein bemino nitzod pater. So he says it depends. If it's the kind of thing that you generally trap, so like grasshoppers, so then you will be chayiv. But things that you don't generally trap, like wasps and mosquitoes, so then you will be pater. Tani idach, we have another verse that says atzad chagavim b'shas atal pater b'shas asharav chayiv. So we have a verse that says that one who hunts grasshoppers, one who traps grasshoppers. I don't know if I was saying hunt until now. I definitely meant trap. So somebody who traps grasshoppers in the dew, when it's dewy time, I guess when there's dew out, so then you will be pater, because when there's the dew, so then the grasshoppers don't see very good and they're just considered like trapped already. However, when it's dry and the grasshoppers can see, so then you will be chayiv because you're actually going to have to trap them. Elazar ben Mahavoy Omer, says Elazar ben Mahavoy, Im hayu mikalchos uvos pater. But if they were grouped together, so then you are pater. The question is, what is Rabbi Elazar ben Mahavoy Omer going on, right? So Ibailu, they asked the kasha, Elazar ben Mahavoy, a reisha kai or a seifa kai? He's talking about the reisha or the seifa. What was the reisha? The reisha, the first part said that somebody, so grasshoppers, when it's dewy out, so you're going to be pater for trapping them because they can't see very good. So is Elazar ben Mahavoy going on that and saying, but that is only when there are lots of them in a group, because since they're all in a group, it's very easy to just trap them. Or maybe he's going on the seifa, which says, but if it's dry out, then you're chayiv, but that's only one at a time. But if they were in a large group, so then you would be pater. So what's he going on? So Tashma, come in here. Somebody who traps grasshoppers when it's dewy out, so then you are pater because they can't see very good, so therefore they're considered trapped already. But if it's dry out, so then you would be chayiv because they can see good and they're going to try to get away. Elazar ben Mahavoy, even when it's dry out though, if there were lots of them congregated in one area, then you're going to be pater because it's easy at that point to trap them. Says the new Mishnah, Tzvishenichnas lebayis v'nal echad b'fanav chayiv. Interesting. So you have a deer, and the deer on its own just walked into a house. Wanted to see what was going on in this little building. So the deer walked into the house. And then our friend Reuven locked the door. So he didn't necessarily lure the deer into the house. He didn't trap the deer. The deer went into the house on its own. But Reuven then closed the door. And by closing the door, he trapped the deer in the house. Chayev. No'alu shnayim peturin. If two of them locked it together, then they're peturim, as we learned on Daf Tzadi Beis and Beis, right? That when two people buddy together on a malacha, they are pater. Both according to Reb Shimon and according to Reb Yehuda, when they are both able to do it on their own. Lo yachol echad linov v'no'alu shnayim chayavin Reb Shimon poter. But if neither one was able to lock the house on its own for whatever reason, and therefore they both buddied together to lock the door so that they'll be able to lock it. So the Tanakama, when we stumble Rabbi Yehuda, says that they are chayiv, whereas Rabbi Shimon says potter. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, says Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, Amar Shmuel, Hatzad Ari b'Shabbos eno chayiv ad sheyachniso legurziki shelo. Somebody who traps a lion on Shabbos is only going to be chayiv once he gets it into its cage. Until the lion is in that cage, it is still considered a threat. Only once the lion is in its specially designed cage that we can be sure that it won't get out, at that point it's considered trapped. Friends, that was Daf Kuvav. I think it was a pretty interesting daf, right? Right. So says says me. Recap. So at the beginning we started with wounding and burning, because of course the Mishnah on Kufay Amud Beis said that Kol Makaklin Pturin, but Rabbi Abahu came with an interesting brisa to Rabbi Yochanan where he says Kol Makaklin Pturin. However, there are exceptions for Chovel and Mavir where you're going to be chayiv. So Rabbi Yochanan didn't want to hear of it. He said, go teach your brisa outside. It's not true. Chovel and Mavir are also potter because it's Makalka. If you want to say that Chovel and Mavir are chayiv, it's really only going to be if you're Chovel because you need it for your dog, or your Mavir because you need it for the ash. But in that case, it's no chiddush because it's misakin. Of course you're going to be chayiv. It's not Makalka anymore. Says Rabbi Abahu, now, right, the question is, what's pshat with Rabbi Abahu's brisa? How can you possibly think to say that Chovel and Mavir are going to be chayiv if it's Makalka? So we actually explained it as being Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, that the Mishnah that says that you're potter for all Makalka is Rabbi Yehuda, and the brisa that Rabbi Abahu was quoting, where it says that Chovel and Mavir are chayiv, is Rabbi Shimon. So Rabbi Yehuda says that, but then the question becomes, what do you do with bris milah and with bas kohen shezinsa? Right? Because those are two, right? Those have to do with havara and chovel. Right? We make an exception for bris milah to say that you're allowed to do a bris milah on Shabbos even though it's going to make a wound. Right? And we also say that you're not allowed to burn a bas kohen shezinsa. And the question is why we need to say these things. So let's start with Rabbi Yehuda. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says that you are potter for Mikalkal on Shabbos, and that includes Chabura. So why do I need to have an exception by Bris Milah? Obviously, it's going to be allowed on Shabbos. Chovel is potter, it's Mikalkal. But Bris Milah is Mitaken, because by removing the foreskin, you're actually, making the person better. So therefore, I would think that you would be chayiv. Kamashmalan that Bris Milah is mutar on Shabbos. And a bas Kohen, you're going to be chayiv because it's not havara, it's actually bishul that you have to, cook up the lead. That's why, I don't know if I said potter, but that's why you're not allowed to do sreifa for a bas Kohen on Shabbos. And Reb Shimon says that you are chayiv for chovel and mavir. And he says, well, the fact that we needed to make an exception for Bris Milah to say that it's allowed on Shabbos, obviously it shows that Chovel in general is not allowed on Shabbos, right? You would be chayiv for Chovel in general on Shabbos. And a Bas Kohen as well, the fact that you're not allowed to burn a Bas Kohen on Shabbos means that Havara must be a problem on Shabbos, you must be chayiv for it. Then we started talking about trapping animals on Shabbos. So we said that trapping... What does that say? Oh, I see what that says. Right. So we talked about trapping chayos and we talked about trapping ophos. Right. So when it comes to trapping chayos in an enclosure, so Rabbi Yehuda says that you're going to be potter for trapping an animal in a chaya in an enclosure. The Chachamim say that it really depends. If it is a large enclosure, well then you're going to be potter because it's not yet considered trapped. If it's a small enclosure, so then you will be chayiv because it's considered trapped already. The question is, what exactly is considered big and what exactly is considered small? So it's considered small if you can trap the animal in one lunge, or if the shade from one wall will touch the opposite wall, or if there are no corners where the animal can run away to. Then we talked about trapping birds in these enclosures, so it depends. If there's a roof on it, so then it would be considered trapped. If there's no roof on it, then it would not be considered trapped. Now there's an exception for these drawer birds, which are very adept at flying around inside, and even once they're inside, they would not be considered trapped. We talked about trapping insects on Shabbos. It was Machlos and Rav Meir and the Chachamim. Rav Meir says that trapping grasshoppers, wasps, mosquitoes, you're going to be chayiv. Chacham says it depends if you generally would trap them or not. If you generally trap them, like grasshoppers, you're chayiv. Things like mosquitoes and wasps, you would be potter. And then we dug a little bit deeper into grasshoppers, and we said in the dewy time, so then you're going to be potter even for grasshoppers because they don't see very good. They're considered trapped already. In the dry time, then you will be chayiv for trapping. Says Elazar ben Ma'avai, even in the dry time, if there are lots of them, so then you will be potter. Then we talked about if a deer goes into a house on its own and you lock the door, you will be chayiv for trapping. If two people lock it together, then they'll be potter because they are buddying on a malacha. But if they are not able to do it on its own, then they will be. Then it's machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda says chayiv, Rabbi Shimon says potter. Then we said that in order for a lion to be considered trapped, you have to have it in its cage. Friends, have a great day.